All right, so no, I'm not trying to hypnotize you. This is going to be your next assignment. So if you remember from our hand-drawn animations, we did a pendulum. So now we're going to kind of play around with a couple of different features on Adobe Animate. Some of them you might already be using, either from your own little research, or you just might have done it by accident or not have followed the instructions. But we are going to make a pendulum that will go back and forth as seen here. Here is a preview of my timeline. Okay, so we swing all the way forward once in 1 second and then back the other one. So this is really easy to do, so don't get all worried about it. You actually are only doing about half of the work that you see here, and I'll show you how. But as you can see, we do have 4 layers, so if you want to go ahead and create 4 layers, that would be a good idea. As far as coloring goes, when we get to it, that's on you. You can choose whatever colors. I do have this masked because if you don't mask it, it will show up in your final product like this, and we don't want that, obviously. So I'm going to kind of show you how this is done. I'm going to start a new file. HD. A lot of you are choosing like 4K, full HD. These are different sizes of stages. So if you're creating a 4K animation, it's going to be really big, and also take longer for you to process and convert it to an MP4. You don't need that. We're just HD. Okay, 1280 by 720. All right. As I always do, I'm going to change this to 50 so I can see my full stage. First thing you need to do is go to Save As. You can type your last name, pendulum. I'm going to put 2 since I already have a 1. All right. I can create my layers since I already know how many. This one I'm going to rename to Pathway. And then we could have our line. I'm trying to remember. Let's see. What did I have? String. Yeah, we'll do line because if you see, it like automatically converted that name because those are names for certain functions, and so it was like, hey, you can't use that. So we got line, ball, and point. We'll call it that. All right. First thing I want to do is to create my little anchor point where it's going to rotate around, basically. So I'm going to go to View, Rulers. This will kind of help you out a little bit later, and if you want to, you can like kind of get it pretty much on top of it. This just helps with kind of measuring and seeing how far we need to go. Also a tip, if you have issues with your objects like kind of jumping and connecting to other objects, this is your snapping feature. I have turned all of these off by default. This one is on, and this one is on, and I believe grid is on. So 1, 2, 3 of them are on. You can turn them off, that way you can just kind of drag your stuff around without it like snapping away and not being where you want it to be. All right, so for this I'm going to do no stroke. I'm making an oval. Okay, and then black fill, and then I'm just going to make a very tiny circle. Here's a tip: if you hold down Shift, it'll create a circle instead of an oval. So let's look at our halfway point. So 1280, so that's 640 is where my center of my circle needs to be. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a very big circle, it doesn't have to be a very small circle. So just create it and then click and drag it to where it would need to be. So 640 is where my middle needs to be. So somewhere around there, and then I'm going to bring it down just so I have some room to work. All right. If you want to, you can convert it to a symbol, and we can just call this pivot or lock or anchor. Anchor may not work, but this there. All right. Now, I've got this point. It's basically going to do nothing right now or at all, really. We might do something with it in the next one, but I'm going to go ahead and lock it. Locking means I cannot do anything to it. So next, I want to go to my pathway, and I'm going to show you this trick that I did. Okay. So we are going to go to oval again, but this time I am going to set a stroke and choose a light color and no fill. All right. And then we're going to create a circle. So hold down shift, and actually you might want to zoom out. Oop, nope, not that. Here we go. You might want to zoom out. Hold down shift and create a circle. Okay. And if you do find that it's too big, okay, so we're going to try and move this and keep it like centered around that point. Okay, it may not be perfect, but we'll get there. If you feel like it's too big or too small, go to your transform window. If it's not over here already, come up here, window, transform. And then you can adjust these properties here to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm trying to see, let's try 120 by 120 for mine. Yours might be perfect, yours might need to go a little bit smaller. Let's go 110. Again, these may not work for you depending on how big you did your circle. Okay. So basically what I'm looking at is, do I have enough room for a ball to swing from left to right? And it looks like I do. All right. Next, I am going to draw a line. So I'm gonna click off of that. I'm gonna draw a line. And if I hold down shift, it'll create a flat, straight line. Okay. And let go. And then I'm going to take my select tool. Let's see. Boom. Hold down shift, click, click, click. And then I'm going to hit delete. And there's my pathway. Okay, this is my little arc. All right. The next thing we need to do is we're going to create, if you remember, our frames, our frame markers. So I'm going to choose my line tool again, but I want to choose different colors. Well, maybe not necessarily different colors, but at least one different color so that you can tell the difference between your pathway and your frame markers. Okay, so I'm going to hold down shift, click, and drag. It doesn't really matter how far you go for this. So you can just basically go side to side if you needed to. Basically what this is going to be marking is the center of my my ball. Okay, so I'm going to move it so that it's centered on that anchor point. All right, so now I'm just going to create some more lines, and if you remember, well, let me draw this center line. Okay, we want it to be kind of our rule of thirds, so we don't want it to just like jump down here, jump down here, jump down here. Okay, we want to slowly increase speed. So these lines up here are going to be closer together. These lines down here are going to be further apart. All right, so I'm going to draw another line. It's going to be pretty close. Hold down shift, drag it across. Okay, draw another line going across. Draw another line going across. Draw another line going across. Now the beauty of this on Animate, if you feel like your lines are too close, you don't have to erase. You just click on your selection tool, hold down shift, click on the lines that you want to move, let go of shift, and then click and drag it up a little bit. Okay, so we have our pathway and we have our frame lines. Okay, I do not want this to be messed with. If I accidentally did something, it would kind of throw it all off, and I want to lock it. Okay. Later you'll see that we'll mask this, but again, that's just so that it won't show up on our final render. All right, so now what I need to do is I'm going to draw our ball. So again, we're going to go oval, no stroke, unless you want a different colored outline of your ball. It doesn't matter, it's up to you. It's easier to not have a stroke for our stuff. So I'm going to choose this color, hold down shift, and I'm going to create a ball. Just kind of create it off to the side. However big you really want it, that's up to you. So I'm going to try and center it. Now, this is a little bit of guesswork because you turned off most likely your snapping. And so it's not going to like snap to the pathway or snap to this line or that line. So you just have to be careful with where you snap it to and where you place it. So that's why we have our pathway. So we want it like right on the edge. Okay. And you want to make sure it's consistent. All right. So if it's like right on the edge here, it needs to be right on the edge for all of these. If it's a little bit off, it needs to be a little bit off all the way around. Otherwise, your ball's just going to kind of swoop down randomly and bounce back up. All right. So it is better to convert to a symbol. That way nothing really can easily alter it if you accidentally drew a line through it or changed the color or did a brush or something. All right, now what I want to do is I'm going to unlock these real quick. I want my pathway to go for 2 seconds. Okay. Then I'm going to do hold down shift, click up here to the point, to the ball, and to the line. And then I'm going to click auto keyframe. All right, so I have these going all the way across. All right, now this is mostly for our pathway and our point, because we're going to be moving these, this one, and then when we come back and do the line later, we're going to be moving those pretty much every frame. But I at least wanted the keyframes to be created. Now we're going to be doing something called animating on twos. Basically what that means is that each frame is copied every 2 frames. So this frame and this frame are the exact same. This frame and this frame are the exact same. So every 2 frames is the exact same. But obviously this will be in a different position. So make sure both of these are locked so we don't mess with our point and pathway layers. All right, so we need to go up to our ball layer. Our second position isn't much further down. Okay, but we could always zoom in and double check where we are. Okay, so we started here and we come down a little bit. All right, make sure you don't come straight down because obviously we're on a little bit of a curve. All right, and then that should be the same frame. Go to frame 5, technically, drag it down, move it over just a hair. All right, now remember this, these lines, these frame lines that are going across should be hitting the center of your ball. Okay, so kind of look at it. If you click it, you see this little dot, that's the center. So I need to move mine up just a hair. All right, so that one looks good. So skip a frame, drag it down. All right. There we go. Skip a frame, go to the next frame. I'm down here now. All right. Scroll down a little bit. And then I should be here. All right, so if we kind of look at how this is, we're going to do a loop, drag this to the beginning, and then drag that down to there, and we'll play it. All right, if you think this is like too quick, we can add more lines, which is probably what I'm about to do because I wanted to maybe be here on my 15 seconds. Okay, so that's why it's also important to kind of plan out. Okay, so